All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back to another episode of Full Circle. And I will be your host for today's podcast. I'm Kay, and if you don't know me, I'm a tournament host and referee. And we're just gonna have everyone introduce themselves, starting with Dio. If you could kindly take it away.
Hey, I'm Dio. I do tournament stuff. I cast matches. Uh, I'm effectively hosting MGC right now, which is the subject of today's podcast. Doing the map pools, doing mostly everything outside of the sheeting and the prize pool. Yeah, hi. Um, that that's it. I also cast OWC. That's cool.
Takane, are you gonna introduce yourself or do I do it?
You know what? It's me. You know what? I was taking a drink. Hey, I'm Saiki. I'm a commentator and I'm a mapper, of which I do both for MJC. I was brought on literally last minute, so excuse me if I'm rushing through things at all in anything I'm discussing.
Yeah, T1G's basement flooded before he could.
We had a
he
little bit
could
of an
hop on the
issue
podcast.
prior to the podcast.
So as we were starting, I was originally not meant to be here. Miles had something that he was going to do. He was meant to be here, so I'm coming in instead. And then T1G, like last minute, just says his basement fucking flooded, and we're just all panicking, just spam pinging people to try and get in. To kind of like, oh hi, let me just hop in here. The bless his
Yeah.
soul, Takani gets in last second, so we're chilling. Also, hi, I'm Shiva. I commentate tournaments a bunch. I'm commentating MGC. I'm also commentating some big tournament coming up soon. So yeah, you'll probably see me around some big tournaments. Hi.
All right. So we're going to be moving into our first subject of the day. We're talking about the mrekk Grandmaster Cup this podcast, and new 1v1, top player in the world, organizing his own tournament, and Dio obviously has had a huge help in that regard. But we're going to go into qualifiers, some of that stuff. Obviously Dio, you ran that pretty well, so why don't you start us off here?
Yeah. So qualifiers was pretty interesting. It was a lot of very, very good scores from a lot of players and a lot of high competition. Of note, some good highlights. We saw 3 players place higher than Vaxe in qualifiers. Vaxe was actually seed 4 out of qualifiers instead of seed 1, like I think a lot of people were, or seed 2, I think, like a lot of people were expecting him to be. Malashevsky, Zudinator, and Enri all placing higher than Vaxe in qualifiers. And then some other surprising placements in qualifiers as well. Scroll and Flying Tuna making their way into top 12, and Riot and Korean Maluko making their way into top 16 was pretty cool. And then there were the sad upsets in qualifiers. Qualifiers for this tournament was only top 16. This tournament is round of 16.
As it should.
So it was hard to qualify. There were 231 people who played qualifiers in this tournament. So, less than 10% of the people who played actually qualify. I think it's something like 0.65% qualified for this tournament. Very low number. So you had to be pretty good to actually qualify, or sorry, like 6.5% or something qualified, not 0.65. A secret box at seed 17 during his comeback right before OWC is very sad. Amamiya Kokoro, who was, I believe, second in the roundtable qualifier tournament earlier this year, getting seed 18. Badu getting seed 19, despite the pool format being 4-3-3-3, with fewer overall speed picks in the qualifiers pool. Mustache as well, who was in the roundtable qualifier tournament, not qualifying. Ciccone, Welter, Boshi Man, Painted Koala, Freddie Benson, Raikaho, Spare, Lucrece, Taquito, Fire Rage, TS Fury, Rafis, Rudge. The list goes on. The list goes on. There were a lot of really good players who played this qualifiers. It was not 231 or it was not 200 shitters and 30 good people. It was a lot of really good players. To the extent that when we started off with listing out who did not qualify on the qualifiers seeding reveal showcase, we said, screw it, let's just start with BTMC, and we started with seed 54. So yeah, there's a lot of really good players who played this. The other two big upsets in qualifiers, I think, were White Cat and Lifeline not qualifying. White Cat set right at the pool, and Lifeline set right at the pool. So I think that's probably why they didn't qualify. Unfortunately, the map pool was, 8 stars in qualifiers, so you don't really get away with not sight reading that, or with sight reading that, excuse me, not practicing that. So a little bit unfortunate. A little bit unfortunate.
Dude, honestly, a secret box not qualifying, it just broke my heart. I'm really happy that people like Riot and Korea Monaco, but I wanted to see a secret box so badly because he went on a hiatus, I believe, from tournaments for a really long time. So seeing him back in action, and especially seeing 17th, like just from the get-go, is such a huge compliment. Like as heartbreaking as it is to seed 17th, I think placing that high in the first place, despite the break, is something that he should be incredibly proud of.
He was on a gameplay hiatus for a while, until a couple months ago as well. So, yeah, very, very good placement for him, despite the unfortunate number.
I mean, dude was on his return grind, right? He literally
Yeah,
had
he was
he
on his
was
return grind.
he was just over 1,900 score average in the whole qualifiers off of overtaking Korea Malaco. That's pain, especially considering that the next place lower is Amamiya Kokoro with 7,000 average score, like a giant gap. Like this is kind of a it's more gutting for a secret box when you consider how close he actually was. Like 2,000 average score is like what, 20k on a map,
He has a
something like
27,000. I
that.
thought it's like 27,000.
Isn't that what you
It's
mentioned
like
in the qualifier results?
26K, 410, 210 minus 408, 358 times 13. There's 13 maps in the pool. If he scored 24,076 higher on a map, he would have had the same average score as Corey and Maluka. So
Good God, that
Wow.
sucks.
yeah,
Like
pretty sucks.
really sucks.
Yeah.
I
Honestly, if another opportunity, like another big 1v1 happens, I'm sure he'll shine even more than he is now, and he has plenty of time to do so, I'm sure. We're just gonna go through the 16 qualifying players real quick. We're gonna start with, of course, number 16. The super quick 1 minute. We're starting with Korea Malago. All of the socials are right there. I was pretty excited for this one. As heartbreaking as number 17 was, Dio, obviously, you were extremely excited for this man. Came the qualifying result stream.
Yeah, I've played tournaments with Corey Maluka before. I've watched him go on teams in 44 tournaments where he is far and away the best player on the team and carry them to a placement that the team would never even get close to without him on them. And be MVP for tons of different teams and tournaments, and still never get picked up in team tournaments by good teams who have a chance at getting top 3 or winning the tournament. So for him to place top 16 here is really awesome. Feels like he's finally showing the performance that he is actually capable of, rather than having to put on the carry pants for a team in another tournament. And I know a lot of those teams are for fun anyway, but it still makes it really nice to see him pop off here and get top 16. He got number 2 on Hard Rock 1 in qualifiers. That was a standout score. Very, very good Hard Rock player. And he had respectable scores on all the DT maps as well. Top 16 on the DT2. And the scores on that were very low. Both that and DT3 were very low. He was top 32 on DT3 with 188k. So, yeah, really good Hard Rock and DT scores for Corey Maluka.
We're gonna be kind of blitzing through this again. We're gonna move on to Riot, who is actually our featured guest today, but more on that later. In the words of Miles, El Cookie Z de Mexicano. And he qualified. Okay, unironically he has said this. Okay, unfortunately, Miles was originally supposed to be on this podcast, but he couldn't make it due to his own personal reasons. So
yeah, sorry guys,
I'm just shouting that out for him.
Sorry guys.
And he seated 15th. Definitely someone that was in contention, but it's like that middle ground, like that bottom of the list where you have 6 or 7 people who could fill these last few spots. But really, really huge congratulations to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that really stands out is how strong his mechanics scores are. Getting third on both DT2 and DT3, along with 500k on DT1. Granted, like 17th is not ideal. I think when you see 500k on a DT1, you just have to imagine that it was like an unfortunate miss or just an unlucky unchoke like halfway through. Those things are like super possible, but still, like getting top 3 on 2 super tapping heavy mechanics maps and just overall getting a good consistent line of scores. 400k on hidden 2, 504k on hard rock 2. That's pretty impressive. He had a good like consistent lot of scores. So thankfully he managed to get through. I think it's really good to see some of these players who you don't normally see in conventional tournaments, especially 1v1, kind of pop up thanks to the insane mechanics that they can display. Like this map pool was stupid levels of skill cap. Skill cap requirement is like an absolute must in this. And so yeah, I mean Riot made it clear, dude. The guy's got insane levels of mechanics, and he proved it with those two scores.
Yeah, we're gonna be moving on to number 14 on the list. Window Life. This man is like, he kind of just spawned last year. Really, I think he was mainly noted for his speed plays, but with this kind of tournament, it's clear that he just doesn't have speed. Really, really standout performances, like top 16 on, I believe, 3 of the Nomads, so Nomad 1, 2, and 3, and then he also did pretty good. He taped another 4 to 16 placement on Hidden 1. And of course, like DT2 and DT3, like he just did really good all around. I think the one score that he did super terribly on was Nomad 4. And if you're bad at one thing and one thing only, I think it's fine because he just does he just he
Yeah,
just proves that he's just not just a speed run trick, and he's so much more capable.
I mean, it's Hito got a bad addition. I mean, that's like a whole different level of control. Like this wasn't like any conventional tech that you would normally expect. Like this one was way more unique in its essence, which is why you see really good control players like Tuna and MCY just completely shred that one. A little bit. I think there's a little bit of reading in there as well. And Window Life
Yeah.
obviously is much more known to be really competent on heavy mechanic stuff, which is why we
And
didn't
speaking of
see him
heavily
perform too well on
competent, we're
that.
gonna move on to number 13, Nahus. Nahus was another player, much like Window Life, where he just did really, really well on a lot of maps, but his standout score was actually DT1. He FC'd. He FC'd Sunglow in qualifiers, which is really hard to do because you only have one shot, right? But he's been making a name for himself. I believe his lower scores were of the DT, like were the other DT, so DT2 and DT3, but still really good scores on all of them. And right above him is another player that we have long awaited for their return. Flying Tuna. So Flying Tuna, if you didn't know, came back from military service. He was at Roundtable earlier this year. He played Corsace just last month. And I'm pretty ready to see like how Korean military or how getting out of Korean military treated him. But he's doing really, really well for himself, I think, qualifying 12th.
Yeah, Flying Tuna. It's been great to see the. I mean, he hit the ground running with a return to form. Just immediately performing at all these tournaments. And Z12 maybe not historically what we see from Flying Tuna, but he's going to get better and better. And he still had some great scores. For example, Nomad 4, which he's placed second overall on. Very, very hard map, and he showed a lot of skill on that, a lot of control, and it's very, very exciting to see him back in action.
Yeah, moving on, we're gonna go to number 11, Scroll. I actually I've seen him a lot in team tournaments, mainly because the Russians typically team up together, right? So to see him kind of shine on his own in a 1v1 tournament is really cool. And even then, earlier this year, he was participating in another 1v1 tournament to my knowledge, and he's actually performing really well in that. Some standout scores from him, of course, like the Nomads, and he did really good on the Hard Rocks and the DTs. I'm pretty excited to see what the Russian OWC how the Russian OWC team does this year. You know, we have with this guy on the team. For number 10, we're gonna go to Arnold, the Peru man. Lots of people know him. Really good old map player, really good DT player. It was actually really funny because for his qualifiers, I think he like scheduled it last minute, like 2 hours before the lobby was actually supposed to happen, and it was the last lobby of the weekend. And he did so good. He just did so good. He and Riot actually played in the same lobby, and it was really funny to see both of them like just go at it.
Yeah,
Number
Arnold as always
9
is really
Oh,
good.
sorry, go.
Like I think the interesting thing for Arnold is that he actually had a better overall performance on Hard Rock than on Hidden. That's usually not what you expect of him. And he also had top 3 on one of the no mods instead of one of the DTs. So I think that was really interesting. And then just very quickly about Scroll, he did have a good performance on DT, but that's kind of underselling it. The DT one, he was number 4 on the map. He was 940k on Sunglow in match. And I think most people would have expected either Ciccone or Welter to qualify, looking at Russian tournament players, but for it to be Scroll instead, really does speak to their depth of player base, especially this year going into the World Cup.
Yeah, so
Plus
moving
1.
on to number oh sorry.
No, plus
We're
1.
gonna
Literally just +1 Dio. Yeah.
Yeah, plus 1. Number 9 is Decaden. He made it into the United States OWC team last year. An exceptionally good hard rock player. A lot of people slept on him really early, and he just kind of rose through the ranks really, really early. And I'm incredibly glad to see him now, especially placing top 10 in this kind of tournament. Just shows like he's capable of having so many other skill sets, and I look forward to what he's able to do in the future.
Interesting note about Decaton, he has the most top 3 placements of anyone who qualified. He was top 3 on 5 separate maps in qualifiers. But he also, I think, has the most 33rd through 64th placements of anyone who qualified. He also had 3 maps where he was 33rd through 64th. And I think, okay, only Corey and Maluko and Riot have more of those than him.
The
So
duality
only
of
the
man.
bottom 2 seeds, yeah, in the
Yeah.
tournament. So just an interesting note. Most top 3 placements, but also second most 33rd through 64th on a map.
I think if he did better, he probably would have seeded higher. Like, I absolutely would have believed that he could have been able to seed higher had he got a little bit luckier. Number 8, MCY4. He was supposed to be at Roundtable, but had visa issues, which was super unfortunate. But he's been making a name for himself and has been making a name for himself for quite some time now. And it's kind of unfortunate that he decided not to play for Hong Kong this year, I believe. Like, he's not on the OWC
Wait, he's
team.
not?
I think
Oh,
he's not playing
damn.
for like whatever reasons he has, but because
That's
I think they
fair.
had
I
their
mean,
roster reveal the other day. But I mean, in the end, that is like his own decision, and we just
Suwagi
have to
isn't playing
respect it.
either. I know that Suwagi wasn't
Yeah.
playing, but MCY4 not playing?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a
I
damn.
think he,
Anyway,
I think if I remember correctly, he's not. But he had
Yeah.
3 first places, by the way, and the
As I
fact
was gonna
that in
say,
top
yeah.
8 you have to have like this is the caliber that we're speaking of. So we're talking number 1 on Nomad 3, number 1 on Nomad 4, number 1 on Hidden 2. And they were like 850k or under. So that just tells you like the amount of skill that these players have to have. But really, really. Oh, MCY4 is playing OWC. Wait, I didn't see
Yeah.
him. Wait, am I like?
He is the first. Sorry, the second on
Really?
the roster.
Did I read it
Tweeted out
wrong?
by Shiro
Oh my
Yuki.
god, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
hey,
I would
Latrell.
never ever spread misinformation on the internet. I would never. I would always fact check everything I do before I say it. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, number 7, Akali Bed. Also, he set the PP record, I believe. Is that what it
That was
1.5k.
crazy.
UK PP record. UK have the highest score, have the highest PP score. I don't care if he's partially Latvian. UK PP record, baby. UK pride. OWC 2023. This is the year. We got a collie. A collie
Didn't
is
he get
coming.
banned?
This is
Like,
our
he got banned
era.
like the second he got
He
that
got,
score.
He
Yeah,
triggered the
he
auto
got
ban
auto
system.
restricted
There's
because
an
normal
auto
people
ban
don't
system
skip
that
1400.
triggers. Yeah, there's an auto ban trigger in standard that triggers if you get 1500 or higher on a map,
Let's just put
and
it
he
this
he
way.
triggered the
Dude,
auto ban
how-
legit.
How
He was
badass do you
so
have
good,
to
he
be
triggered the
to
auto
play
ban.
so hard the game bans you because they think you're cheating?
Yeah.
That's mad.
But I mean,
That's mad.
despite him holding the PB record, he did super well. He top scored DT2 and DT3. He got a lot of 14 to 16 placements. He got 4. He got Nomad 3, Hidden 2, Hidden 3, Hard Rock 1, and Hard Rock 3. So definitely not just, obviously has a field that he excels in, but that doesn't mean that he's too shabby in other departments. And we have another crowd favorite. Up next, number 6, Karcher, or MX1000. And actually, no, he reverted back to Karcher, right?
Renamed to
He did,
Karcher, yeah.
Yeah, he reverted back to Karcher. But with 2 Koreans in the qualifying 16, I'm very eager to see what the OWC South Korean team looks like, because if there's any place to show standout individuals, this is a place to do it. But yeah, number 1 on Hidden 3, number 1 on Hard Rock 2.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
the Hard
and-
Rock 2, I kind of expected. The number 1 on Superluminal, though? I mean, yeah, I know he was decent on Hidden, but whoa. Like, that's really good. Did not expect that.
Yeah, I think that in general, like, people expect Karcher to be really good at Hard Rock, but I mean, the fact that he's showing that he's pretty good on other things, he got 2nd on Nomad 1, so I mean, it's showing something. At 5th, we're gonna have Intercambing. This dude, like, you just see on the actual results sheet, he did 14. He placed top 16 in all but 4 maps. And even then, he was still, like, top 32. So he may not have had, like, a really strong standout score. Like, he didn't get, top 3 in certain maps, but he did good enough all around that he was able to qualify. And qualified especially very high, too. Like, top 5, like, super, super good for him. And this is where things get dicey. Because we have the Bacon Boy himself, Vaxe, coming back after a long hiatus at 4th. Funnily enough, he placed 4th in Yuki Aim 2 years ago, which occurred around the same time period, but he eventually won.
She's trying to apply some juju. She's trying to make curses public so that
I would never ever place any unreal expectations or predictions. I would never would never do this. Anyway.
Hey, look, still some great scores though. Like number 1 on Hard Rock 3, 1 million score flat. Number 1, very, very nice. 840k on Superluminal. That's pretty sweet. People don't really know Vaxe for being super good on Hidden, but like, bro, like he's crazy. Most people know Vaxe as generally a really, really strong, like all round no one player, really good mechanics, and really, really comfortable on Hard Rock. So him getting still consistently really high scores on Hidden, getting top 16 on 2 and top 3 on Hidden 3 is still pretty sick. So I don't think we should count him out just because he got 4th, because the other 2 players popped off really hard, like crazy, crazy good.
Seeding is just a social construct.
Literally. OSU social credits.
But yeah, it's really cool to see Vaxe again, especially after it has actually been, if I remember correctly, 2 years. Like, yeah, exactly 2 years since he won the Yuki Aim badge in 2021. But going into our top 3, we have Enri. Really good Nomad 2 score, number 1 in that. Really good Hidden 2 score, top 3 in that. DT1, top 3 in that. And, those are the skill sets where he just absolutely goes off, and it shows right there in qualifier results. He did exceptionally well in qualifiers, only getting 1 score that was kind of, not up to par with everything else, and that was Hard Rock 2, where he placed, I believe, top 60, top 64, but everything else he did exceptionally well on. Zoodinator, another great tournament player that we all know and love. Number 2 on Nomad 2, by the way. She actually lost to Enri for that number 1 spot by 2,000 points. So if that just shows, how good she's been doing. That's, there it is. Hidden 1, number 1. Hard Rock 1, number 1. Really good scores. And then, DT2, pretty subpar at 50k, but she's not exactly known for her speed now.
Did you see
But
her
it's okay.
run on DT3?
She did so good. on
Okay.
everything else that it didn't even matter.
Yeah, so number 7 on DT1, great aim player. Unfortunately, not a great run on No Mod 1, but whatever. DT3, she got number 5 with 623k and 77% accuracy by double tapping the entire map.
Says a lot.
It's insane.
They
how she
said it.
keeps
They
doing
said
this.
it couldn't be done. But yeah, 285 BPM double tapped. No problem.
She and Badu might just be like the best double tappers in the game. Like,
Okay, if we're going by that metric, Badu got 280k. Bit of mind the gap.
Yeah,
it's a
TBH.
little rough out here for
Remember
Badu,
this Beauty
unfortunately.
won against NCY4 in Corsair's Close because of a double tap. Like, do not step on her. She is just the best double tapper in the game.
Oh my God.
Real, the most accurate double tap, the most accurate jackhammer in all of Osu.
if we're going
For
by
real.
sheer accuracy, like the top 8 in terms of accuracy for DT3 were all above 95%. Oh, I'm sorry. All but one was above 95%. Only one score was 94. But and wait, okay, Riot also got 93%. Oh my god. What am I doing? Anyways,
yeah, the map was
she's
pretty
the only
hard. I'm not gonna
accuracy below
lie.
90%. I would never lie. I would never spend misinformation on the internet. I would never.
To
But-
Badu's credit, he got 284k and also 69% accuracy. So pretty good double tap there too. But
Am I
Yeah.
okay? So am I the only one to be like really quite pleasantly surprised to see Zunia at top 2? Because I did not, in my predictions, I did not like expect her to make top 2. I expected like top like 5, top 8, top 2. I was
I feel
trying to like
top-
Henry and
top- Well,
Vaxxing.
she got number 2
That's
in Core 6
huge.
close, so she's definitely more than capable
Yeah,
of getting a top
I
4
mean,
performance.
yeah, no, I'm hugely pleasantly surprised. Like, I'm definitely really happy to see that because I think everyone was 100% just calling it to be he who is above Henry and
He who is
Vaxxing
above.
to be like the core 3. But having Zuni in there as well, like kind of ruffling up the competition, makes me actually really excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do because this is insane levels of skill cap requirement in this tournament,
Oh,
just
yeah,
straight
absolutely.
up. So
I mean, she's played Roundtable, she's played Course Closed, and she's done pretty well in most of the high-level 1v1s that she's played internationally and in North America. I think she probably underperformed on Nomad 1, Nomad 3 in qualifiers, and the DT3 makes up for that by a lot. So,
yeah,
lucky
that's
run on the
true.
DT3 and a couple bad runs earlier on kind of cancels out. But I think, with how many big 1v1s she's participated in and gotten really high placements in, I think people should start to come to expect to see her near the top here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to finish off the qualifiers ranking with the guy who needs no introduction, the Polish alien himself, Malashevsky.
I'm just saying, first things first, that is a banger profile picture. Banger profile picture. I do not know where it's from, but that is so cool. That's like album cover type shit. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like Logic would use that on an album cover.
Is that
like
milk
Bobby
or is the
Tarantino.
floor just damaged?
I think no, that's a wall, Takani.
A
That's a wall. Are you talking
honestly
about the? Are you talking
really
about like the
confused
way
as to
on the
what
in
that
like the
is.
wall at the back?
Oh my god.
I think
Never mind,
that's either
never
like I'm pretty sure the stairs is like an actual pattern, but like the back of the wall is like just like I don't know, like
Yeah,
so
Be a
it-
mirror in the
cool
back?
PFP.
I think
Oh,
so.
oh! I thought she was on the floor. Oh my gosh. Okay,
No, those
I
are
just
Dog?
figured it out. I thought she had
God,
like face
these are
planted on. She
trolling.
fell off the stairs.
Very observant cast, by the way. But yeah, Malashevsky, I don't think anyone expected him not to place first. I feel like at this rate, if you see Malashevsky enter a 1v1, unless he really doesn't care, you should expect him to place first. He's did place first in roundtable qualifiers, number 1 in Core Ace closed by a significantly large margin, and number 1 across like many other tournaments. And so he's just been sweeping house left and right, not only in solo tournaments but also in team tournaments. He won Core Ace close. He won Resurrection Cup, if I remember correctly, and other large team tournaments. He has continuously shown a great performance left and right for the past 2 years. But that's it for our qualifiers. We're gonna go into our round of 16 recap right now, and the matches we have a couple matches. We're not gonna go over all of them, but first match of the day, we're gonna go Intercambing versus Flying Tuna because I think this is a matchup that a lot of people were looking forward to, in my opinion, because I just feel like these two players are so incredibly matched, and even then, to see it finally happen in action was a treat.
Yeah, all right, I'll start then. Yeah, you're kind of right about that. I think both of these guys, if we were to really kind of compare strengths and just general raw power, like both these guys are very evenly matched. They do have a few differences here and there. Like Tuna shines way higher on the gimmick, whereas Intercammering overall is a little more well-rounded and flexible in that regard. But there were some really good fights. I mean, No Mod 4 immediately was one thing that came to mind for me. I mean, Intercamming just purely lost on combo game. He won on miscount. He won on ACK. He almost outshined Tuna on a skill set that I think everyone believed Tuna to completely shred on. So that was surprising. I don't know about everyone else if they feel free to disagree with me. I thought that Tuna would put up a little bit of a bigger fight on the speed maps, like the DT, like not sorry, the No 5. I know he's not like super well known for like heavy stamina stuff, but I don't think this one was too stamina heavy. I was hoping that he may have been able to put up a bigger fight, but still, I mean, even without those speed contested stuff, he still did really good. I mean, still winning on the DT3. So I mean, safe to say, raw speed is still in him. You know, it's still got it. Which was really happy to see in that match.
Yeah, I mean, Tuna's always been good at kind of burst speed rather than speed stamina. And of course, the DT3 in round of 16 helps with that 278 BPM bursts rather than, 245 BPM streams. So I think that helps a bit there. Honestly, intercamping just kind of won off of like the two open speed maps aside from the two open speed maps aside from DT3 in the No Mod 5 and DT2, and then just really outshone Tuna on mods. Every modded pick went Intercamping's way aside from DT3, and the only other picks that Tuna was able to win were no mod picks. So I think part of that, if you look back at the qualifiers results, is pretty well indicated from qualifiers. The only maps that Tuna had good scores on in qualifiers were in the no mod pool and the DT pool. It was no mod 3 and 4 and DT 1 and 3 that were top 16 scores for Tuna, and everything else was either top 32 or top 64. Whereas for Intercamping, he was top 16 on every single no mod pick and had multiple top 16s on Hidden and Hard Rock. So just the mod consistency, I think, working out really well for Intercamping, who has had pretty good showings on both Hidden and Hard Rock throughout his tournament career. My mind goes back to Roundtable Qualifier tournament, where he was the #1 seed on the Hidden pool in its entirety, rather than on the Hard Rock pool, where his specialty usually lies. So I think just the mod consistency for Intercamping helped out a lot in this matchup, and maybe that's part of the rust for Tuna.
Yeah. Takane, do you have anything else to add?
No other thoughts? Yeah.
Okay.
No more thoughts.
In that case, we are going to move on to the next matchup, which is Vaxe versus Nahus. I think a lot of people were really surprised by how this match went, because this was the first tiebreaker match of the weekend. If you looked at the qualifier results, you would have not expected seed 4 versus 13 to go to tiebreaker. And I'm just taking a look right now, but from what I can see, there were only 2 maps in qualifiers where Nahus got a better score than Vaxe, which were DT1 and Nomad 3, and that was it. And meanwhile, Nahus actually was up 5-3 match points against Vaxe, who managed to turn the match around and bring it to tiebreaker before setting a kind of ridiculous 650k on RPG as the tiebreaker. It was a really good match.
Yeah, I have to emphasize that. It was really competitive, and Naos had multiple like super good chances to take to take Vaxi down. I mean, this is a rare sight to see Vaxi be forced to really push himself. Not many people, not many players have had the privilege to. Naus was so insanely close to being part of one of the most exclusive clubs like in the game's history, like ever. There are very, 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 very few people who have beaten Vaxi in a tournament match. And Naus was really close. That Hard Rock 3 in particular, Hard Rock 3 was absolutely heartbreaking, bro. It was heartbreaking. The dude had the lead. If I remember this match correctly, the dude had the lead for a while, and then he missed on nothing. If I remember correctly, this might have been the wrong map, but I'm almost certain it was Hard Rock 3.
Yeah, it was playing God.
Yeah, dude.
I just think that people are
gutted.
underestimating Nahus. Like, they expected him to probably get completely rolled by Vaxi.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
in some regard, is kind of fair because, you know, a lot of people didn't know who Nahus was. They didn't really see him except in, like, Forsace and stuff. But now he's actually, like, making a name for himself and, like, really getting shoved into the limelight, which I'm incredibly happy for him because he had, you know, he's not number 5 for no reason, right? He's clearly able to contest Vaxi, considered one of the best tournament players of all time, and to take him to tiebreaker despite, you know, his hiatus is an incredible feat to watch.
Yeah, the mainstream consensus around everyone was that, oh, you know, Vaxi's the GOAT. He's gonna completely shred him. Woohoo, yippee! Oh, we put my points on Vaxi. I mean, but like, I think I swear to God, man, like 2022 is literally the year. Like one of the biggest measures of this year is stop underrating Naus, for crying out loud. The dude is cracked and so much more goddamn well-rounded than anyone thinks.
And you know, after one tiebreaker match, we're going to another tiebreaker match, which was Zudinator versus Riot, which was another match that people probably didn't expect to go to tiebreaker. There were probably like, it was probably another, you know, top seed versus lower seed story of just like, oh, Zudi's probably just gonna win, you know, aim gap him, and then Riot might, you know, win a couple of speed matches, but that wasn't the case. Zudi did perform probably a little bit lower than what people were expecting, but Riot still made such good scores. Like, he performed so well that match, and to take Zudinator to tiebreaker was incredible. And he didn't even do that shabby on the tiebreaker either, especially against Zudi.
Yeah, this was I watched this match with a Mexican player, and the energy in the VC was so powerful the whole time. We were having such a good time watching this match because Riot was just playing amazing. He was just setting score after score after score against Zudi. I think Zudi played a really good early match. Kind of faltered a little bit late match if I'm remembering the match correctly, but then just on the TV she woke up and kind of stuffed out some Sanchez. I think any belief that Riot could make it, I think Zudi instantly stuffed on the tiebreaker where she was just better. I don't think there was any arguing that. It just appeals to her more, but nonetheless, it was still a very, very good match and a very good performance from Riot.
Yeah, like, if you look back at the MP link, a lot of maps had a difference of 100k or less. And in a 1v1, like, all the points make the difference, especially, like, the match that... The map that took Riot and Zudi to TV, the DT map, had a difference of just... of 30,000. So that just shows how far Riot has pushed Zudi, like, especially to make maps as close as they were. Like, of course, there were a couple maps where it was kind of a blowout, but, you know, plenty of things, you know, went correctly in that match for Riot, at least. Just unfortunately, like you said, on the tiebreaker, it wasn't enough. So another map that people were really looking forward to, MCY4 versus Decaden. I think it was a pretty interesting match. You know, 6-3 is not a bad scoreline, especially for Decaden. I don't think he's ever played MCY4 in a 1v1, but feel free to correct me.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen them head-to-head in a 1v1. I think this is one of those matches where and similar to Zudinator versus Riot, there were a lot of really close scores, right? A lot of scores that were within 100K or even within 20K, right? In Zudinator versus Riot. The Nomad 4, the Nomad 6, the Hard Rock 2, the Hard Rock 3, the DT1, the DT3. I think there were more close maps than not in that matchup, which made it really fun to watch. Kind of the same thing happened with MCY4 versus Decaton, if I can find Decaton's name here. There we go. Where you have a lot of maps with a very, very small score difference. 32K on Nomad 3, 100K on Hidden 2, 32K on Hidden 3, 46K on Hard Rock 3. Even the maps that were above 100K, I mean, the highest score difference in this match was 286K. So this was, despite the 6-3 score line, actually a pretty close match overall. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah, no, just +1 for me. I literally everything you said, I completely agree with. The fact that both these guys are so well evenly matched on Hard Rock made those Hard Rock matchups extremely exciting. And even without those hotly contested like Hard Rock maps, you had legitimately like, I think every single map outside of like Hidden 2 was extremely close, and Nomad 4. Like so many maps were close here. So yeah, great match.
Great match. And another great match is Akali versus Arnold, which was on technically speaking the only quote unquote upset because Akali was seeded higher than Arnold, but Arnold won the match 6-3. There were some interesting differences. So on Nomad 4 he had a difference of about 43k, but like when it came to stuff like the DT1, there was a difference of like 200k. I think overall this match is actually just kind of a display of opposite skill sets. Well, there's a little bit of overlap, but I think for the most part, like what Akali is good at is not necessarily what Arnold is good at, which is kind of the name of the game in 1v1s. You're kind of shoved into this all-rounder position, and if you're weak in one skill set, and someone's, moderately good, it's gonna show.
I think probably the
Yeah,
most. Oh, go on, Connie. Sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah.
interrupt you. Go on.
I had the honor of casting this match actually, and I mean, from just a theory perspective, this could have been very, very close. But yeah, as you said, that skill set difference, as you got later and later into the match, it really showed itself, and it really heavily benefited Arnold. You saw Akoli Bed run out of picks after he got those like first 2 points. It was already a panic situation, and it just kept evolving and devolving for him. And you could tell with the way he was playing, he wasn't confident anymore. Just with the maps that he had and the skill sets that he had at his mercy.
Yeah, I was going to add that we mentioned earlier in qualifier results that Arnold did really surprisingly well on the Hard Rock. This match was the exact replicated that message like once again, like getting multiple scores outshining a Colibad on Hard Rock, not the Hard Rock 3, but still getting 600k on playing God. That's still kind of huge. Only having even one missed count. It was really close. He even outshined Colibad in combo. It was literally just act that he was struggling on. And on top of that, getting 600k on Proud Dust, the Hard Rock 2. If you don't know about this map, this is like absolutely ridiculous levels of precision. This is, I believe, someone please correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it CS 8.4? It is, right? 8.4 CS? Or is it slightly lower?
Yes, 8.45 for Proud Dust.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty surprising. I mean, Hard Rock was not one of the skills that you'd expect from Arnold to perform really well on. But Outrun and Colibad on that, pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with Arnold. He's done a great job in this match.
Yeah, I think overall the matches last week were really, really cool. And it's, you have some of the best players in the world seriously, showing and trying their best. But we have another set of matches this week that are also equally as exciting. So we're going to start with the losers bracket matches here. The first one is going to be Korea Moloko versus Decaden. That's going to be something to look out for, especially in the losers bracket match, because if one of them loses, they're out.
Yeah, this is a match that had only a couple of overlapping scores from round of 16. And I think only one of these overlapping scores goes the way of Korean Maluko. So it's I think going to be a tough matchup for him. Decatur was seed 9 in qualifiers, and so it's going to be relatively difficult for seed 16 to win there, just comparing the qualifier scores or whatever. But I think furthermore for this matchup, something that makes it difficult is that both of these players are hard rock players, and when you get a matchup like that, typically the better overall tournament player wins, and Corey Maluko is a very good tournament player. He made it in the top 16 here. But Decatur, I think, to most people, is probably the better tournament player. So we'll see. We'll see how well Corey Maluko is able to do. I think there is a chance of an upset if Corey Maluko is playing well on the day, and Decatur is maybe not having the best day for the game, or didn't have time to practice during the week or something, and he's not performing up to usual standards like he did. Against MCY4, for example, in that really good match they had, then I think Korean Maluko absolutely has a chance to take it. Because again, when you have overlapping skill sets like that, one player being slightly better at it on the day can be all it takes to change the matchup entirely. So even though this is a Decatur favored matchup, I think Korean Maluko still has a chance to take it on the right day.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think on paper, looking how good both these players are, if you have conflicting skill sets and you just know that one player is just going to generally consistently outshine, it's going to be really tough because Korean Radical can't make use of his biggest strengths. Overall, Decaden just full on outshined Korean Radical on several scores, including Hard Rock. There are some maps that you could see Korean Malako fighting on, like Hard Rock 1, but that's still like a tough one. Like Decaden's still really good on Hard Rock game consistency. So it's a frightening thing for Korean Malako. But I still think that with the stars aligned and with Korean Malako having a good day, he's very capable. I mean, who isn't at this point at this level? There's a chance, but I think if we were to look on paper, I think Decaden does take the edge a little bit.
Either way, I think it's going to be a really, really solid matchup. The next match that we're going to go over is Nahus versus Flying Tuna.
Oh, that's Henry. Hi, Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Oh, Henry's gone.
Hi, Henry.
Yeah,
it's
Flying
okay.
Tuna.
Well, there we go.
Nahus.
There we go. So there's Flying Tuna. So Flying Tuna versus Nahus is I think is going to be a really, really good matchup, especially given last week's performances. Nahus coming out of a tiebreaker loss versus Flying Tuna, who came out of a 6-4 loss. I don't know. I feel like this match could go to tiebreaker, unironically.
I kind of agree. I think contrary to the Korean Marco Decaden thing, like these skill sets are quite contrarian, quite different. So yeah, I kind of have to agree. I mean, Nels and Flying Tuna are extremely close in seeding. That's one big plus. But I think there are like a few edges that we can take into account. I think Nels just barely edges Flying Tuna over general aim consistency. He's outshined Tuna on every single aim map, and it just not by too much, but still enough to be noticeable, especially in the double time one. Tapping mechanics though, he is outshined. So there are a few like conflictions here. Gimmick, I mean, obviously Flying Tuna is going to take that one. I think that one's kind of a given. But yeah, both these guys are really well rounded with quite a few distinguished strengths. So this could be a really good one, especially considering how close the seeding is.
I think if
go
Nahus
ahead.
plays like he was playing last week, this match isn't all that close. As good as Tuna is and has been for years and years, Nahus is on the come up. and it was not by like it was not by Vaxei playing poorly that he forced Vaxei to tiebreaker. If you compare these guys' scores head to head, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maps where they match up head to head. Tuna wins one map by 409 points in the Nomad 4, and Nahus wins every other map, all 6 of them out of 7. The lowest win he has is by 71k. Everything else is above 120k, and there's 2 above 300k and 1 above 550k on Nomad 5. Do I think Nahus popped off versus Vaxei? Absolutely. He played up to the level that he needed to in order to bring Vaxei to tiebreaker. But I also think that Nahus is probably capable of doing that again. If you can qualify for this tournament and then pop off like you did in round of 16, there's definitely the chance of that happening again. So despite this being a really close seeding matchup, I think if Nahus continues to play well like he did last weekend, it's not going to look close because of how ridiculous he was playing. That said, Flying Tuna is still Flying Tuna. He still obviously is incredibly good and has the potential to pop off and do very, very well on this pool. But he has not looked as good this tournament, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how both of these players do, right? Flying Tuna was seed 12, Nahus was seed 13. But the matchups that they had last weekend, it seemed like Flying Tuna's scores were more indicative of his seeding overall than Nahus's were. And that's not to say Tuna's scores were bad. Nahus just played absolutely ridiculously last weekend.
Yeah, you have to take into account tournament momentum and mental. That's a much more important thing. If you were to look back on the stats that Noah's did, specifically last week, I was more talking about qualifiers and based on previous knowledge that I've got of them. But if you were to look just alone on those last stats, like Dio's kind of right. Like the stats don't lie. Yeah, I can kind of agree, but it does depend on circumstance, because you can consider Now's on a big pop off against Vaxei. Whether or not that momentum continues, despite losing, whether or not that strong momentum continues into the next match entirely depends on the circumstance of the day and how they feel. So, yeah, honestly, I kind of, it's like an agree/disagree thing with Dio, but I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so I just think that that match will also go pretty well. We're gonna go to Riot against Akali Bed. I don't know how this is gonna go. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, this
I
kind
really
of
don't.
feels like the biggest question mark of the weekend.
It's just okay. So Riot took. Okay, we're talking about momentum, right? We're talking about momentum, and Nahus took Vaxei to tiebreaker. He's coming off that momentum against Tuna. Theoretically, that logic should apply to Riot, where he took Zudi to tiebreaker, and he's headed into someone who, like, if we're going strictly by seeding numbers, should have won against Arnold, but he didn't. So he's, but you know, there's solo play momentum where he just set the PP record of the world, and it's gonna be an interesting matchup because I think they have enough overlapping skill sets where a lot of the things where they would normally pick would just kind of be super coin flip. Like, oh, am I having a good day today? Am I gonna do well on this map? Like, what's happening? So I don't really. It's really hard to predict how this would go. I want to say it's like 6-4. I want to say 6-4, maybe 6-2. Or sorry, it's 6-3. I mean, I want to say 6-2. I want to say 6-4, 6-3. Just based on things that happened like last week, the like, so like they both played Hard Rock 2, they both played Hard Rock 3, DT1. The score difference on those were like less than 200k. Nomad 3 and Nomad 4, the score difference was less than 15k. So if there's anything to coin flip next week, it's gonna be those maps.
I think given how last week went, we'll probably see Riot ban out the Nomad 5 and the DT3 against a Colibed, and hope to win on stuff like the DT1. He had a better score on that last weekend. Probably hope to see him pick into some of the reading maps as well. He did have a very good score on Hidden 2 last weekend. The 166k on Nomad 6 aside, the Hidden 2 score was really, really good for him. And I think for like after that, it's gonna be interesting because Akolibed still had better scores on 3 maps that they both played. Riot had better scores on 3 maps that they both played, and we'll probably see some slightly different bans from both of these players to figure out exactly, to properly ban out based on the opponent. But I'm really not sure who wins this. I think it's going to be a toss up, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see who ends up coming out on top in this matchup overall. I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, the issue is like so many of these matches can be super unpredictable, especially in the losers bracket, because our next match is even more unpredictable, which is going to be Windowlay versus Scroel. I don't see enough of these players to really make a solid judgment, but that is just me because I'm kind of out of the loop. But I I think, Window Life got kind of unlucky last week. He lost 6-1 against Enry, and it just kind of shows the caliber that Enry is. And the same thing goes with Scroll. He lost 6-3 against Karcher. I think overall that matchup was a little bit rough in terms of skill sets. But I think this match should hopefully be a better balance of the playing field. When we compare their hidden 3 scores, there was about 100k of difference. The only super jarring one would be DT1. I believe Scroll got 900k on that map versus Window Life's like barely 300k. Sorry, not DT1, Hard Rock 3. That was a difference of like 620k, and it's pretty noticeable. If Window Life were to ban something, I would expect DT1 in that regard. I think that Hidden 1 would probably be such a toss-up because the score difference was like 10,000, 11,000. And that would be an interesting map to see contested, especially given that, they both got like 470k-ish on the map.
Honestly, I think Squirrel is a little more well-rounded. Probably good enough to outshine on more maps than not.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning more towards Squirrel because in all honesty, like Window and Squirrel like both had like stupid crazy opponents, and we're going to be talking about those two matching up later, which is just insane crazy matchup coming up. But both of their opponents were in my eyes at least, like if we're talking like form, we're talking really close. So it's not really like they both one of them had more difficult matchup than the other. But I think Squirrel just overall just put up a better fight last week. I just think on top of that, he's actually able to unironically like contest Window Life on some tapping heavy maps. He's got the ability. He may have not proved it in the Nomad 5, but I think he's definitely got the capability of doing so. So yeah, although Window Life definitely has some potential, and maybe some more unexpected maps than people would think, I think just overall Squirrel's going to outshine. He's just better rounded, more well-rounded in my eyes, especially on Hard Rock and Hidden.
Yeah, I think people need to keep in mind Scroll is really good on hard pools. The Corsace Open 2023 Grand Finals match Knockout 2 match that he played, he was second match cost overall, even though his team would lose 7-2. Second match cost overall behind only Rectagon. He was putting up such a fight, top scoring almost every map for his team. He's very, very good on pools this hard. And I think people need to keep that in mind for this match because this is Scroll's territory in comparison to Window Life.
I think like it's actually so insane how interesting the losers bracket matches are going, especially given how last week went. But that's just how this kind of tournament goes. we're going to be moving on to our first winners bracket match, and that's going to be Malashevsky versus MCY4. Now, both players participated in Courses Closed earlier in April of this year. However, they did not play against each other at all, not a single match. So, and keep in mind, Malashevsky lost. He got second place to mrekk, and I believe MCY4 got knocked out in semifinals against. Unfortunately, he went up against Zudi and lost on tiebreaker. So, to see those two matched up this early is definitely going to be a treat. I do believe that MCY4 will be able to take a few points off of Malashevsky. I don't think Malashevsky is gonna have like a clean sweep like last week.
Roundtable revenge
Yeah,
story.
roundtable qualifier. I was gonna say
Roundtable qualifier
Yeah,
revenge
roundtable
story. That was the last time they went. That's
Really?
Jesus. That was forever ago. Yeah, that was such a long time ago
That
now.
was forever ago. That was
That was
January of last year. Was that
ages ago.
January?
Yeah, it's literally it's yeah. January, February last year, something like I don't exactly remember when
I would
it
never
was,
spread
but it
misinformation on the internet.
it was ages ago. So these guys haven't played it in a
Oh, they went 6-2.
while. Yeah, but I think things have changed. I think MCY4 has definitely had a bigger improvement this
How
year.
hard was that pool? They went together.
So
They went against each other.
that pool was a
In
little harder than this pool. That pool was more in the low
semifinals.
8-star area rather than the high 7-star area like this pool is, for the most part, at least. There's a couple of 8-star maps, but this is mostly a high 7-star pool. The last time they played, it was 7-1 for Malashevsky against MCY4. It wasn't close.
That map pool was 8 stars. Holy.
Yeah, this one's high 7 stars also. So I don't know if there's gonna be too much of a difference compared to what happened in the roundtable qualifier tournament, unfortunately for MCY4.
I would never
Um,
spread misinformation
trying to
on
find
the
the
internet.
one map that MCY4 actually won. It was Yori Zero and Hard Rock. So maybe if you're MCY4, you go Precision or something. The only head-to-head map that MCY4 has against Malashevsky from their scores last weekend in the round of 16 is DT1 by 26k, not even 26k.
yeah,
So
it's not really close
it's
at
not
all.
looking good. That said, that's kind of how the matchup goes for anybody versus Malashevsky. Is well, the matchup's not looking good, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I think he'll take 2 points off of Malashevsky. I believe.
Okay.
I believe in the dream. Okay.
That's a pretty reasonable prediction if you're going home for MCY. I mean, I actually kind of agree. I think maybe there's going to be like 1 or 2 maps taken, but outside of that, like Ristol's still Ristol. Like I did say that MCY4 has improved quite a bit this year, but I mean Malashevsky just doesn't stop improving. Like it's like the guy never falls off. I don't understand it. He doesn't
I feel like
have a bad
Malashevsky is just an
tournament.
outlier in the tournament scene. It's just like,
Um,
man, you get to his match and you just see him, and it's like this like just this other level of
yeah.
com-
We
like of skill.
we've literally seen like no one like him, and yeah, sure, Vaxay exists, but we genuinely have not seen anyone like him. It's genuinely incredible how consistent and good this player is. No matter who you put him up against, like you just put Ristol down as the favorite overall. Like mrek's like the only guy you can really consider fighting back.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cortez close mrekk one.
Yeah, but I think there's a question about that with skill cap in the pool. That was
that's
like a big
true.
question
That's
mark with that.
fair.
But still.
Also, mrekk isn't participating in this tournament because his name is
True.
on the tournament name.
True, he
So-
hosts it. Host L. You can't win, mrekk. Only Ristol can win, or Vaxay if he pops up. I don't know.
Yeah, but the next match is gonna be Vaxay versus Inner Camping, and this is actually a revenge match from 2021 because in Yuki Aim, Vaxay went against Inner Camping and won 6-4. Now, keep in mind, Intercambing was not the player that he is today, especially 2 years ago. And he has improved significantly. Not to say that Vaxay hasn't retained and even expanded upon his skill, but tournaments over time and in the past year, 2 years, have just gotten so much better and have pushed themselves even farther. And like not just Intercat, just all players in general. And it's insane to see how high the skill ceiling has come. And so I know Intercamming is extremely determined to get his revenge on Vaxei. Whether or not that'll actually happen has yet to be seen. But if Vaxei is getting taken to TB in round of 16, I think it's fair to say that this match might also go to TB.
I think it's gonna be interesting. These two are seed 4 and seed 5 out of qualifiers, so right away it's expected to be a pretty close match. You look at the maps that they shared from last weekend, and it's mostly Vaxei wins on the head-to-head from round of 16. But there's a couple of close maps down near the bottom, like Hard Rock 3 and DT3, which are wins by 100k or less. And I think some of the other maps that are not shared can still be intercamping favored. For example, some of the Hard Rock pool. Vaxei did have a really good score on the Hard Rock 3 in qualifiers. But again, a lot of his really good scores were in the hidden pool, where intercamping is not necessarily the best hidden player. He does outshine Vaxei on the low approach rate rating, both in qualifiers and last weekend in round of 16. But there's, I think, some contest going on in the Hard Rock pool and the Nomad pool. And when it comes to speed in particular, intercamping definitely has an edge despite the head-to-head loss on DT3 from last weekend compared to Vaxei's score. Just looking at, I'm gonna look at this MP link, but I seem to remember intercamping having really good accuracy on the DT3 last weekend, despite only getting 540k on the map. I'm just gonna check that real quick to make sure. Actually, no, only 96%. So I think the DT pool is going to be contested. I think the Hard Rock pool is going to be contested, and I think you're going to look to intercamping to try and pick into some of the low approach rate reading and hidden, and some of the other nomads that he's maybe a little bit more comfortable on, stuff like the Nomad 3 and Nomad 5. So I think there are lots of good picks for intercamping. I think there's slightly more good picks for Vaxei overall, both from the head-to-head and from qualifiers. So I think it'll be a slightly uphill battle from intercamping, but I think it's going to be close again.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty interested to see, because like intercamping's like a determination will probably, it's all about mental, right? Like what do you think going into the match? But Zudinator versus Arnold is another matchup that we're going to go over. I just don't know. Honestly, does Arnold pick speed into Zudinator knowing that she can double tap like these maps?
No, she's just gonna ban it.
Like, unironically,
she's just gonna
does
ban
Arnold
it.
just randomly shit miss and Zudi takes it by double tapping?
He picks whatever speed map is left. Like, you might as well take the risk. There's a good chance she breaks. I mean, all of her DT3 practices were 100k on qualifiers. Like, it's
knowing
a matter of
Zudi,
luck.
Knowing Zudi has 2 bans, and assuming there are like 3 speed, stamina heavy picks, Zudi can control what maps she wants to play speed wise.
I think you're all forgetting that Arnold just gaps on reading. No, like I think you're all forgetting that Arnold is also one of the best low AR reading players in the tournament scene. So between the speed and the reading, there's like 5 maps that Zudi needs to ban versus Arnold. That said, there's also a bunch of maps that Arnold needs to ban versus Zudi in the form of stuff like the raw aim consistency, and to some extent Nomad 2 as well, because it's just a flow aim pick. But I mean, I think this is a lot closer of a matchup than just Arnold pick speed is going to give it credit for. I think it's going to be relatively close between these two.
I'm more interested to see how the hidden picks work out between Zudi and Arnold. Not specifically the reading one, just hidden in general.
I mean, I always knew that Arnold was going to be strong on gimmick, but hidden comfort, Zudi's like more than capable. I mean, she ran fucking hidden on tiebreaker last round. And not only that,
Arnold also runs hidden on tiebreakers. I will say that he is also just straight up
he
hidden.
has had
Yeah,
a history of it.
yeah.
I just want to see
sure.
how close the hiddens get, but I think that's another super interesting
Sure.
matchup.
I like the point I'm trying to make is that the only surefire, like clear advantage that Arnold has over Zudi is tapping. Everything else is either hotly contested or in Zudi's favor. I don't think there's any like major gap on any skill sets outside of speed. And as you said, like Zudi can double tap, can double tap pretty well. If there's a map that she knows she can double tap more, she can literally just ban the other two maps. Like strategically, this is way more in favor of Zudi.
The fact that she did it in qualifiers, and it's just really funny to me.
I mean, she's proven it. She's proven it like
she
several
just did
times.
it. Yeah, like she absolutely big props to her that she did it in qualifiers. But it's just the fact that she did it and was able to get like a top 8 score because of that. Like, sure, her act wasn't good because she was double tapping, but the fact that her score was still higher to people that actually tried to play the map is a huge feat for her. And our last winners bracket match is going to be Henry versus Karcher. Now, I don't know how to feel about this matchup because I wouldn't be able to know like how they do. Like,
I think this is going to be a really good matchup. I think you have two players who are really strong on different things. Again, similar to Zudinator versus Arnold. I think you're going to favor Henry on reading and like high BPM speed, stuff like the Nomad 5, the DT2, the DT3. I think Henry is kind of your Arnold foil here, and Karcher is to some extent the Zudinator foil. I think less of a pure aim player, but can play the hiddens very well. Got 750k on hidden 1 last week, got 820k on hidden 2 last week, and is also a very, very good hard rock player. So I think there's, by the way, both of these players full comboed DT1 last weekend. It would have been an ACK battle between the two of them. So,
that's pretty swag.
Yeah, so I think this is going to end up being a really close match. I think there's going to be probably some reading bans by Karcher and probably some hard rock bans by Henry, and past that, I don't really know how the rest of the matchup goes. I think there's going to be a lot of coin flip maps in this match, which is going to make it really interesting. They were talking in the server yesterday, in the early morning hours for anyone from North America, about how Henry wanted Karcher to leave up the Nomad 6, and Karcher wanted Henry to leave up the Hard Rock 2. So maybe we'll see a little tomfoolery with those two picks. But aside from that, I think it's going to be pretty similar to how you expect the Zudinator Arnold match to go, where you have one player who's really good at hidden reading, low AR reading, and DT speed, and one player who's really good at general aim consistency and hard rock. So I think both of these matchups are going to be pretty interesting to see how they go.
I am so hyped for this Henry Karcher matchup. This matchup goes so insanely hard. This goes so insanely hard.
Watch. Henry Karcher is gonna go like 6-2 or something, and I'm just gonna be dead wrong in the end.
I'm gonna be so
6-4 now, and it's gonna end up like 6-2.
I envy the casters who are blessed enough to be able to cast this matchup. Like,
why they have to play at 13 EPC, bro? I would have loved to cast this match
because they're both from Asia. I don't know what you want. They're both from Asia, man.
You know what's funny? Just wake up early. What are you gonna do about it? Wake up early, put on your alarm, go to bed early.
I'm gonna get killed if I cast at 7 a.m.
Stop playing Fortnite and go get up at 7.
Oh my god!
I get him at bro. I got him at 6:30 today. I don't want to hear it.
I woke up at 7 yesterday. I have to wake up at 7 today. Kay's holding me hostage here. It's midnight for me. I need to go to bed. I have work tomorrow.
Skill issue.
Anyway, yeah, whatever. Skill issue. Fine. I'm gonna die of sleep deprivation tomorrow.
In contrast, the Europeans have great times to watch matches, except for Korean Moloko versus Decade, because that's at 0 UTC, which is effectively midnight or whatever for people in Europe. But for everyone else, like maybe for East Coast American, like 8 a.m. isn't the most awful thing in the universe at Dio.
Yeah, I mean it's doable.
Good morning.
Doable.
Welcome.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Welcome to
But-
MGC.
Yeah, that's a wrap
Yeah.
for quarterfinals this weekend.
Oh,
Please watch
finally.
it. Wow.
God.
Wow.
Yes,
What the heck?
go
man?
watch it.
Anyways.
Go watch it.
Yeah, go watch it. It's gonna be streamed at twitch.tv slash mrekk. Free advertising, I guess. But good luck to all the players this week. I'm sure you guys will perform greatly. Now we're going to close off this episode with an interview from one of the players. The former #1 Mexican player, Riot. Hello. Well, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Yo, what's up?
What's
I'm
up, dog?
Riot. I used to be #1 in Mexico, like a few months ago. Not anymore. I play Osu. That's about it. You know?
All right. So I'm just gonna hit you with a few questions, just a little bit of background. But how did you, when did you start playing OC tournaments? How did you get into it? Like, what was your first tournament that brush us up on your history?
Okay, so from what I remember, my first tournament ever was OWC 2017, I think. I was like the usually like the team had 7 members that were just constantly there, and then the 8th member was just like some random guy they picked up. So that year I was the the random guy that got picked up, and I played and won the first and only match Mexico has ever won in OWC. So I think it was pretty cool for my first OWC. And yeah, that was my first tournament experience like ever.
So since then, it's been 2017 or 2020. So it's been about 6 years since that event. What have you decided to do with it? Was your focus on playing tournaments, or was it mainly solo play, like climbing ranks at the time?
I mean, like at the time I was like rank what was it, like 3K, something like that. So I wasn't like too focused on tournaments because like everyone was just better than me. So I decided to like improve instead, like solo play, get PP, stuff like that. But I still signed up to some tournaments. Usually it was just OWC. But when was it? 2020, I think, was when I started like actually joining community tournaments like Suiji and stuff like that.
Do you enjoy community tournaments? Like, how often do you play in them?
I mean, I don't like solo tournaments because it's just like I'm not that good of an all-rounder. But I like team tournaments. I think they're pretty fun.
Well, when you say you don't like team tournaments, and you are playing in sorry, you don't like solo tournaments, yet you are playing in one right now. Um, did you have any expectations going into mrekk Grandmaster Cup?
Okay,
Were you
I
expecting to
joined.
qualify?
I joined the cup because mrekk told me to, and I was like, okay, I'll join. And then who was it? I don't remember. Someone told me you should practice this time because there's gonna be a prize pool. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll practice. I practiced like the day before, and I was like, okay, I'm probably not gonna make it because everyone's so good. But I got like really good scores on the DT picks. So I was like, maybe, just maybe I can make it. But I didn't think I was gonna make it.
So what was your first reaction when, on the qualifier stream, like you saw your name there in number 14? What was that event like for you?
I like the moment where number 17 was like announced. I knew I made it, so I was like, okay, I don't care anymore. I made it. That's good for me. So we started like screaming in VC and stuff, you know.
Well, congratulations for qualifying and and doing well. So is there any follow up to what that question is there any other player that surprised you, either qualifying or not qualifying in the tournament, or maybe seeding?
I think well, Scroll. I've heard of him before, but I didn't think he was like that good. Uh, Same with Korean. Like I knew they were both good, but I didn't think they could beat people like I don't know, Taquito, Lifeline. You know, I think
And
those
how did
two
you
were
feel?
like
Oh,
yeah,
my
no,
bad.
no, oh no, all good. I think they were like pretty surprising players They surprised me a lot actually.
How did you feel about your overall performance last week? You know, you took Zudinator to tiebreaker, and that must have been quite a moment.
I was okay, so I was like thinking I was probably gonna lose like 6-2, 6-1 maybe. But I practiced like the reading picks, hidden 2 and no mod 6. I forgot no mod 6 on like in the middle of the match, so it doesn't matter. But I got lucky because Shuri also underperformed by like a lot. So I watched her stream before the match started, and she was getting like 700k on like everything. And then in the middle of the match, she got like 400k, 500k. So I got lucky, definitely.
All right, so how do you feel about your match against Akalibed? Because that's coming up this weekend, actually.
It's messed up
Nervous?
because he just got PP record, so he has like the mental on him. But I think I can like get far with him because we share skill sets, so we have like the same. I'm not the same. I think he's better than me at speed, but
How many
we
points do you
we
think you're
have
gonna take?
best case scenario. I think I can beat him. Like best case scenario, like he underperforms. I do okay. Like I can beat him. But worst case for like 6-3, 6-2 maybe.
Wow. I wish you the best of luck, though. I think you've clearly shown that you're still really good and you're clearly capable of playing this game at a high caliber. And congratulations on qualifying for this tournament. Do you have
Thank you,
any
thank you.
plans for the future? Like, are you playing OWC? Are you planning to participate in other community tournaments? Or is it just like an
Uh,
IRL focus?
I I I I think I'm gonna sign up to more tournaments, but like only if like a team asks me to join. But if it's solo, probably not. And OWC, I'm probably gonna still be playing that. But I kind of want to like step down from playing OWC and just like move more into like the playtesting part of it or whatever.
Well, you heard it here, folks, and you heard it first here. I'm really happy that we got this interview with you. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I did give you quite a late notice, but I am really happy that we finally got to interview you. I wish you the best of luck in your match, and I wish you the best of luck for the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, of course. And, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, anyone watching, if you don't follow Riot on Twitter or his Twitch or, his YouTube, all of his socials are right there. So please give him a follow. Go watch his stuff. Exceptional player. And thank you so much to everyone else that came onto the podcast. Thank you, Dio, Shiba, and Taikani, and of course, Cabo for streaming. This has been another episode of Full Circle. I'm Kay, and we will see you next time.